Hi, welcome to Rishi Tarot. Today we will be asking Rishi for a message of hope. So we have 4 piles for today. Here is pile 1, pile 2, pile 3, and pile 4. You may pause the video if you have yet to select a pile, and you may meditate on it. If you have already selected your pile, please go to the timestamp in the description box down below and click on the timestamp next to the pile you've selected. Now, once again, this is a general reading, so take only what your intuition validates. Okay, so let's begin our reading. Hi, my pile 1. Welcome to your reading today. So, my pile 1, you've been through a fair bit of challenges in life, all right? You might have felt like you made a wrong decision in the past, and it's still weighing down on you heavily, all right? There might be a fair bit of regret. Also for my pile 1, romantic relationships didn't come easy, all right? I also see that you might have some challenges with other forms of relationship. For some of my pile 1, it might be a difficult childhood. You felt like, life has been really tough, my pile 1. But you're a survivor, right? You've been through a fair bit, So I feel like the question of receiving love has really been an issue for you, all right? You might feel like you're lacking love from your family, or, you might have some really difficult romantic relationships. You feel like life is like the world is almost against you, right? Like it's been really, unjust. Like, why me? Why did I have to go through everything that I suffered, right? Be it receiving the love from your family or your romantic relationships, like you feel abandoned. You feel abandoned by the world at large. Like where were your guardians? Where were your loved ones? Or where's the universe when you needed it most? It's like you kind of lost faith along the way, right? Because of the amount of injustice. I feel like my pile 1, you're also someone with a very acute perception. So you don't just notice the suffering in your life. You also see the suffering around you, right? And you're very jaded, right? So, also as I was mentioning earlier, you feel like you made a bunch of a series of wrong decisions, right? Like one decision led to another decision, and you feel like it's been you felt like you've been dealt with a really bad hand in life, okay? So there's a fair bit of regret. I see you now being sort of in a limbo. Like things aren't exactly moving in your life. Like emotionally, I feel like it's more emotions, but it also has a lot to do with your willpower, right? Your enthusiasm about life. I feel like life feels like it is stalling, it's not really moving, and that you're just fighting the currents, right? I see that you're still doing your best, persevering, getting by, you're resilient, okay? So the challenges that you've experienced have built up a level of resilience in you. So you're tough, right? And you're a fighter. I see that. And that's a really good thing, okay? But deep within you, in your emotional well, right, there is there's a level of disillusionment, right? You feel like your emotional waters are kind of stagnant. Like nothing really gets you excited. You're kind of in this apathetic state where you're just, a little disappointed in life, a little jaded. You don't really show it, but, deep within, you know that the fire in you has kind of gone out, that you're trying to rekindle it, but you don't quite know how to. Okay, and even with relationships, if you're single or even if you're currently attached with a partner, you feel a little dead inside, right? You feel like life is just sort of, all right, you go to sleep, you wake up, and a day-to-day drudgery. You lack that joy, you lack that enthusiasm. And I think if you look really deep within, you realize you're not happy with the way things are. And you realize, all right, that it's got a lot to do with what's going on within you. Like your external circumstances may reflect that, or they may not. You're just not receiving much joy out of life. And it's becoming a real drudgery. All right, so today's reading is about message of hope. So let's get to what the future holds for you. Okay, so my part one, suffering. We all suffer to a certain extent, whether it be physical suffering or mental suffering. And if you know a little bit about Buddhism, you realize that part of the Four Noble Truth is pretty much about suffering, right? And it's a truth because it's a statement, right? And we all suffer to some extent, and even though we don't really perceive the suffering in others, because people put on a poker face, right? People's not gonna reveal their true, their true emotions to you, and sometimes we get really caught up in thinking that our life is a whole lot worse than others, right? And sometimes it's actually important for us to gain a level of perspective, okay? So I see my part one that you will get to a point, all right, in your future where you see past this disillusionment, all right? Because right now you're very you're disillusioned, right? Nothing can really get you excited or enthusiastic, but you will reach a point where it's almost like an aha moment, a moment of awakening, where you suddenly see through the illusion that is this world. In Buddhism, it's like we're in this samsara, right? Or if you want to go more new agey, it's like we're living in this matrix, right? And so you will get to a point in the near future, all right, where it's almost like your suffering hits a breaking point, in modern lingo, we call it rock bottom, but it's almost like you hit a point, you hit the wall, all right? And then you wake up. You suddenly have this eureka moment and you see past all the disillusionment. And in addition to this, all right, you suddenly recognize all the ones in your life, all the desires in your life, like this cravings in your life, and you're like, oh my God, I have this expectation that life should be this way. Like, I should have money check, career check, love check, friendship check, social life check. And it's almost like you suddenly see through the superficiality of your desires, your cravings, and you're like, oh my God, I'm tormenting myself. Now, I'm not saying that whatever injustice, whatever challenges in your life prior, that they're insignificant. No, they are significant because it led you to this point. What I'm saying is that you get to a point where you see past the the transientness of it. It's almost like you get to a point where you're like, oh my God, they're not really, yeah, they were really challenging. They were really significant moments in my life, all that I've been through. But it's almost like you have a higher perspective now, right? You have a higher perspective, and you're like, oh, they were really difficult, but I now have a higher level of wisdom, a different level of perspective, where I'm like, oh, they're just happenings in my life, right? It's like you see past the storm. It's like you somehow ended up in above the storm. You transcend that, right? You transcend that. You transcend all that challenges, and you're like, without these challenges, I wouldn't have gained this wisdom. And you see past that. You have this huge breakthrough. Okay, we have the high priestess here for your future, and so you have this big breakthrough, and it really is like a paradigm shift in you. It's almost like a tilt of your neck. Like you suddenly just tilt your perspective a little bit, but then your entire world starts changing as a result of this. Okay, so as within, so without. Our internal mindset really plays a big role in how our world is perceived. Okay, and so this change, even though it's starting internally within you, will start having huge ripple effects in your external life. But this gotta happen first, because this is like the origin point. This is the primordial point, right? This shift in your perspective within you. And so you'll get to this point where it's almost like you suddenly have this higher wisdom, okay? And you start seeing things from very broad perspective. It's almost like you've been, sort of on land, right? And then you get to the peak of the mountain, and then you start seeing everything: the land, the grass, the ocean, and you're just at the top of the mountain, and you're experiencing all these elements in life, right? Water, fire, wind, and then you're just like, okay, you find your power within, all right? And you see past all the all your past sort of attachments, your cravings, and you're like, I'm beyond this. And when you get to that point, and you will get to this point, all right? And when you get to that point, there will be a really big shift, okay? And when this shift happens internally, your life starts changing, okay? So my part one, you have some other guidance here in your oracle cards. So the other message, my part one, for you is that things goes in cycles, right? Nature goes in cycles. Now, some of the cycles are shorter, like say the moon cycle, or say the different seasons, the spring, summer, etc. But then there are longer cycles in life, right? You think about astrological cycles, the cycles of outer planets, they go hundreds of years, right? So similarly, with nature, there is this cycle of life. This ebb and flow, this up and down, and nothing is permanent. So Rishi here wants to remind you that in this cyclical nature that is our reality, we are part of nature, right? And so your life is also cyclical. So when you think about all of the the horrible times, the challenges you've been through, the mistakes you've made, the regrets you've had, the limbo you're in, etc., know that this is impermanent, okay? Know that nothing is permanent. Even the good times are not permanent, right? The impermanence is almost like the truth here. So when you realize that, you start noticing that, you can be more in the moment. And you also start becoming hopeful. And you don't get over enthusiastic when you achieve a level of success, right? Neither do you over crave, the level of success you've got, because, it's impermanent as well. And so whatever challenges you've been through, this sort of dark phase of your life, the dark night of the soul, keep in mind that everything also has a purpose. So this is the second message, right? Everything serves a purpose, right? So with this knowledge that, things are cyclical and that things serve a purpose, nothing is wasted in nature, all right? The leaves fall and things decompose, and that's fertilizer, all right? Everything goes in cycles, right? And so when you realize that everything has its purpose, everything has its place, you start acknowledging, all right, that the challenges in your past, be it romantic relationship, career decisions, overall life decisions, they serve a purpose. And that purpose might simply be getting to this higher level of wisdom. And you're like, oh, is that worth it? Oh, well, it is worth it, because once you get to that level of wisdom, you start operating life in a very different way. It's almost like you get a system upgrade, all right? So, you had a different operating system if you were say akin to a computer, and then you get this huge upgrade. But if you didn't get all the breakdowns and software problems, you won't get this huge upgrade, right? So you'll get this upgrade. And when you get this upgrade, you start appreciating life. You start seeing your life change, because we go back to our earlier point about how there is a cycle, right? So you go on to a higher cycle, a different cycle, and a higher perspective, right? Within this new start of a cycle. And you start realizing that, wow, life is different. But if you didn't have that previous challenge, you wouldn't get this perspective, okay? Now, and things you're kind of in a phase now where your old mindset is getting destroyed, so you gotta embrace whatever that comes up, whatever difficult emotions, whatever that is really painful to bear, that you have buried deep in your subconscious. You gotta embrace it, all right? You gotta embrace it. You gotta allow. And when you start embracing and allowing, and then that's when you can start releasing it, okay? So my Paul 1, I hope this message has brought you some clarity and has brought you some level of hope, as well as understanding of your situation. If you like the video, please give this a like and subscribe. I wish you wisdom. I wish you wisdom, clarity, and strength of purpose. All right. Bye-bye. Hi, my pal 2. Welcome to your reading. So, my pal 2, I see that something has come to an end in the recent past, okay? And you're still really resisting getting over it. So for the majority of my pal 2, this is with regards to a career or a vocation. So, and then there is this subset of you where it's has to do with a relationship. But I'm going to focus more on the career, because I feel like the majority of my pal 2 falls in that category, okay? So something that's come to an end, all right? It's with regards to your career, your work situation. It might be in the recent past, or you might have been going through this feeling like you don't really belong to in your current work situation. Like your enthusiasm for it has died. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to first address the category of people where the your work has gone away, right? Like your previous career has ended. Okay, so you're still kind of stuck in, the emotional baggage of this ending. Okay, so you acknowledge that it has come to an end, whatever career path that you were previously on, but emotionally you haven't really gone over it, right? You're still kind of hung up about it. So right now there seems to be a little, you seem to lack enthusiasm, right, as to how to go forward. Like part of you logically knows that you have to spring forth, like you have to find a new endeavor, a new chapter, a new direction, but you're like, it's like logically you know that, but deep down you don't have that motivation just as yet, right? It's almost like it's like you're jumping for your body is taking that step, like your legs are moving, but your heart is still stuck in the past. Okay, so you're aware that your career needs some form of rebalancing. Okay, and you're looking at your skill sets. You're at a point where you're like, okay, so what am I good at? What can I do? And you're really doing your best to figure out where you can go forth. Okay, but you're still not really thinking out of the box. Okay, because you're still strategizing. You're still very much reliant on your old skill sets. And I'm getting this message that you have to think out of the box. To get out of this rut, you have to think out of the box. And not only do you have to think out of the box, you have to really ask yourself, what am I good at? What do I really wish to do? Okay? So, in the near future, all right, and then there's the distant future. So in your pile, I will look at both the near future and the distant future. In the near future, you're going to get to a point where you're going to break down. All right, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but I will get to the very beautiful future and at a later part. All right, so let's start with the near future first. You're going to get to a point where it feels like the end of everything. Emotionally, you feel you're overwhelmed. You feel like you've hit rock bottom, and you don't really know where to go forward. You're at a complete loss as to how to plan. How to plan for the future, right? And in a way, it's kind of happening. It's kind of a blessing in disguise, right? So when I say that you have a breakdown, like mentally, I mean you get to a point where you're just exhausted, you're exasperated because you've been sort of hitting your head against the wall of your old box, right? So in order to move forward, you have to get out of this box. You have to think out of this box, right? And when you hit that point where you're like, oh, this feels like the end. I can't take it anymore. It's when you get that breakthrough. Okay, so we have the beautiful sun, the strength card, and a page of wands. Moving forward in the further future, and so in a way, when you break down is when you get that breakthrough. Okay, and in a way, what you've been doing in the past so far, it served this purpose, right? But it's no longer in alignment with what you truly want to do. Okay, so there's sometimes we're not cut out for certain endeavors, right? There may have been a period of time when that particular work, the particular career was appropriate. Okay, it served its purpose during that particular chapter in your life. and then a new chapter begins, right? And it may no longer be in alignment with this new chapter, okay? And to figure out what it is that is truly in alignment with you, you have to ask yourself two questions. What do I enjoy doing, and what am I good at doing? All right. So you need these two conditions, right? What do I enjoy doing, which is kind of self-serving, you know, and what am I good at doing? Because what am I good at doing is sort of more other-serving, right? Because you can't say, oh, I love saving people and being a medical doctor, but if you're not good at it, then it doesn't really matter, right? So these two conditions need to be figured out, right? What you enjoy doing and what you're good at doing. Okay, so I see that you have multiple skill sets. Okay, my Paul 2, and it's just a matter of getting that level of clarity. All right, and then most importantly, what do you enjoy doing? Right, what brings you fulfillment? Because I see that in the past, my Paul 2, part of it is this inability to find fulfillment, right? So whatever happened in the past, whatever that came to pass, whether it be you were let go or you personally choose to leave, like either way, I feel like your heart wasn't in it. Like if your heart wasn't in it anymore, and that deep down you were kind of looking elsewhere for some kind of career fulfillment. Right? You know that your skill sets would be better used somewhere else, and that you would probably gain more enjoyment doing something else. So whatever that has come to an end, if you were being really honest with yourself, you probably knew deep down it was no longer in alignment with you. Okay? And so you're at a point where you lack enthusiasm, okay? You don't really know, you lack that willpower, that fire in you, and you realize that you have to reignite that enthusiasm. Okay. Now there's some of my Paul 2 where instead of this feeling of stagnation where you don't have the enthusiasm, I see some of my Paul 2 actually being pretty impulsive, because sometimes we react differently, right? So it's like even though deep down you may not have the enthusiasm and that willpower, people react differently. It's almost like there's two polarizing reactions. The first reaction is you just sit in your room and you're just curled up in your bed, right? And you completely lack any motivation whatsoever. And the other extreme is you deliberately force yourself to find that enthusiasm. So you might make impulsive decisions, okay? So my Paul 2, I see two categories of people, all right? So the underlying energy is the reverse Ace of Wands. And you're still deep down lacking that fire, that inner motivation, but you react differently, right? So for those of you who are not curl up in your bed, etc., and not wanting to leave your house, I see the other extreme for my Paul 2, where you're making really impulsive decisions at this point in time. And you need to take a step back if you're in that category, because I see that you're going to start making certain wrong decisions, and it's not going to be helpful, all right? It's going to get you kind of tangled up. When you're at a point when you should be sort of finding your inner alignment and being really clear, because you're almost like you're kind of stumbling around, you're not really you don't have that full clarity as to where you want to go next, right? So you're being really impulsive for my category Paul 2, who are sort of forcing themselves, right, at this point to latch on to whatever opportunity comes their way. Now, I think it's very important to be discerning, okay? Because when we act from a place of desperation, we kind of give a power away, And I want to get to this future part of this reading where power is actually a very important theme here, okay, for my pal too. So, all right. So if you're being impulsive right now, please take a deep breath. Figure out if this opportunity, whatever that's being presented to you, is what you really want. Because I see that there's a lack of planning. Okay, there's a lack of planning, and you're gonna reach a point where you're gonna hit a wall. All right. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you, my pal, too. But before things get better, things are actually going to get a little worse first. Okay. But it's okay. You're going to be prepared, because once the worst is over, once you get through this sort of breakdown, you get to your breakthrough. Okay. So what is this breakthrough that is coming? All right. So now this is the really uplifting part of the reading. So you'll get to a point where you realize what it is that you truly enjoy, what it is that gives you purpose, and what it is that you're good at. All right. So earlier I mentioned two things, but yes, I would like to add another point, which is your purpose, right? So in order to figure out your purpose, figuring out what you enjoy doing and what you're good at is probably part of the equation. So we have the beautiful sun card for you, the strength card, all right? So it doesn't get any better than this, all right? So the sun is a very positive card, okay? It's very positive, uplifting, happy, and also a very healing card, all right? If you notice, all sun gods are healing gods, and most healing gods are sun gods, right? So in this card, there is some level of redemption. All right, where there is almost like an inflection point. Okay, so you have the Ten of Swords and it transits to the Sun. So there is an inflection point, all right? And part of this is because you realized your strength. You have the strength card here. So these are major arcanas, which is, highlighted here. So the energy is very much highlighted in these two cards. Now, with the Sun card, I see you, my pal, too, rediscovering your inner strength, okay? And when you get clear within on what you're good at, about how strong you are, how you manage to overcome your challenges, is when you discover your inner strength, your inner pillar of strength. Right? And then you also get this aha moment. It's almost like a eureka moment where you discover what it is you truly would like to do. Okay, what gives you purpose, what you enjoy doing, and what you're good at, okay? And this eureka moment, all right, comes with you taking back your power. All right, I see that power is like this theme going on for my pal too, where you kind of give your power away. When I say that you give your power away, it's like you don't acknowledge your strength, you don't acknowledge your talent, and you operate in a way where it's like the world does this to me, versus you exerting a level of influence on the world, right? It's more like things being done to you instead of things being done for you. So you get to a point, all right, in your breakdown, you get to a breakthrough. And it's a difficult transition, I would say. I wouldn't, but you will get to that breakthrough. And, for my pal too, if you can't afford or you have the luxury of having a coach, I highly recommend you get a career coach. I don't mean to cross-sell this, but I'll put in the description box a link to this career coach who's really good, and he happens to be my husband too. So I feel like you will get through this, all right? You will get through this, and when you get through this, things are going to turn 180, okay? This is a big inflection point, okay? You see how stagnant this energy is here? And then bam, you shift. You got the sun, the strength, page of wands, all right? So a new chapter begins. Okay, most certainly a new chapter begins. One filled with enthusiasm, one filled with purpose. Okay, and you rediscover your strength. You rediscover what it means to be hopeful. What it is where it is you want to go. It's like this illumination point. All right, and you get there by taking your power back. A lot about coaching is, sort of changing the way you view yourself and the way you view the world. And why is it so critical? Because, as you go through this transition, as much as this transition is like an external transition, because we're speaking about your career here, it's also a very internal transformation. All right. You do have the depth, the sun, and the strength. So clearly, the theme here is this emotional transformation, right? And I feel like when you get through this, when you get to this point, this inflection point where you shift 180, you'll start looking back, okay? And you realize that everything that happened, however messy and uncomfortable it is, that it was meant to happen for you to get to this better point. All right. So you're at a stage where it's really uncomfortable, but keep in mind that when you get through this, all right, you will rediscover your power. You will take your power back because you've been giving your power away to other people, to the organization you used to work at, to the external circumstances. It's like, why is my life this way? Why are things being done to me? Why is the universe against me? And then when you shift that mindset, all right, and you might need some help to get there. Like I said, I think career coaching will be really helpful for you. My part 2. And when you get to that point where you stand in your power, when you realize that, things are not being done to you, that things are being done for you, and you are an agent of change within yourself. And when you get to that point where this huge shift in mindset comes about, you take back your power, and then you're unstoppable. Okay, and then you will get clear in your direction because we have the Page of Wands here, right? So you renewed enthusiasm. You know where to go, and then bam. Okay, so you get clear. All right. So that's all I have for you, my Pal 2. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you do, please give it a like and subscribe. I wish you perseverance, and I wish you clarity of mind. All right, bye-bye. Till the next reading. Hi, my Pal 3. Welcome to your reading. So, my Pal 3, I see that there's been some form of betrayal or deceit that's been done to you in the recent past or the past. You've been the victim of some form of manipulation. All right. Someone in this picture has stepped out of their integrity. All right, so I think for the most of my Pal 3, you have been the victim of some form of deceit, some form of betrayal, or untruth, right? Someone has stepped out of their integrity, and you feel like you've been manipulated, right? And that someone basically took you for a fool and lied to you. I feel like for most of my Pal 3, this is with regards to a friendship or a relation, like a romantic relationship. There's the possibility of it being like a business situation or a coworker, but for the most part, it's with respect to a relationship, be it a friendship, a working relationship, or a romantic situation. You have been on the receiving end of some form of deceit, untruth, betrayal, and backstabbing. Okay, and you've been manipulated, and whether it be intentional or unintentional, someone has stepped out of your integrity. All right, and it's really hurting you. So I see that you have a lot of anger. All right, my Paul 3, you were very angry at what's going on right now. Very angry at the situation, and you're doing your best to salvage the situation. I feel like it's still an ongoing issue. You might still be in contact with that person, or you're still somehow in the situation, right? And with the person involved, you might have already called the person out, but you're still trying to save the situation, okay? But you're not really getting anywhere. Okay, you feel like you're doing your best to figure out how to save it, to find a solution to the problem, but you're not seeing the results, and you don't really know how to move forward. Okay, you have a lot of anger. All right, you're very angry, and it's justified, right? It's justified because someone has taken you for a fool, or taken you for granted, and manipulated the situation, right? And lied to you, or the other people involved, and basically you're very angry. You're very angry, and there's a lot of pent up frustration inside of you, okay, at the situation at hand. And despite your best efforts to find a solution, you can't really figure out how to move on, okay? So if this is a romantic situation, I see that you're very angry, but on the other hand, you're still trying to figure out if the relationship can be salvaged, right? So it's almost like you're teetering on both ends. You're split, right? On one hand, you're really angry with that person. On the other hand, you're figuring out how to save the relationship. But either way. You're a ball of emotions right now, my Paul 3, okay? So in the near future, all right? So this reading's about message of hope. So let's see what happens next. Okay, so I see, my Paul 3, that you make a radically different move, okay? It's almost like you used to operate one way, like perhaps you're trying to look to, let go of the situation, or sort of sweep it under the rug so you can move on. But I see that it's like you're rebelling. It's as if your next move is one of complete rebellion, It's like you, instead of maybe trying to reconcile or trying to sort of save the situation, which is what you're trying to do, you make a completely different move, all right? I see for the most of you, you call the person out, right? You call out the other person, you rebel, you fight back, and for some of you, I see that you let it go, right? Not let go of the resentment necessarily, or let go of the anger, but you let go trying to salvage the situation, okay? Because you see that the situation is no longer worth it, okay? That there's a part of you that is sort of has given up on the situation, and you walk away, right? I'm not saying you walk away from the resentment, the anger, and the injustice of it, but there's a part of you that's like, I've had enough, all right? Then some of you might continue to fight back, but it's almost like you're fighting back in a different way. Instead of attacking them straight on, you might find a different way to go about it, right? But for the bulk of you, I see that you just want to move on. So you instead of trying to salvage the situation, it's like you give up, right? You're like, this is not worth fighting. This is not worth my time, my effort, and you choose a radically different path. All right. So if it's a romantic situation, you might just say that's it. I no longer want to have contact with you, and you move on. Okay. For some, it might be a work situation, and you're just like, it's not worth it. You stabbed me in the back, you betrayed me. I'm out of here. So you rebel. All right. So however however different the situation is, I see you, my pile 3, rebelling. Okay. Now, so things start getting better. All right. So things start changing for the better once you get through this phase. Okay. Now, I see that there is a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. All right, and that after making that decision, all right, the big decision whether to stay, to go, or find a different way to fight the battle, you have to work, on letting go of this anger, this resentment, this frustration you have, okay? And it's critically important that you do that, okay? Because when we forgive people, we're not really, saying we're absolving the person of the crime he or she did. It's like we're actually forgiving them to lighten our own burden, right? Because we're carrying this burden around, this burden of resentment and anger and frustration, and it takes a toll. Okay, so I see you, my pile 3, doing some form of soul searching. Where you probably spend some time in solitude, where you have time to reflect, and coincidentally, you actually have the reflection card here for your guidance, and you let go of this baggage, right? It's not going to be easy. Forgiving is never an easy task. I feel like most of us in our lifetimes will probably cross this point where we try to work on forgiving people who have crossed us. So you start working on this forgiveness, and as difficult as it may be, right, it is still going to be a better solution to work on the forgiveness than it is to hold on to resentment, because the situation will eventually sort itself out, regardless of what you do, right? But the anger and that hatred is gonna stay inside your system. Okay, so I see you doing some form of, spiritual work, shadow work. You have the shadow work and you have the hermit here. So you look for some kind of spiritual guidance, right? You look within yourself, and whatever your faith is, you receive the help of some people, and you start working on yourself most of all. Okay, and as you start shedding this anger or this resentment, I see you coming to a really happy place. So for here, we have the 9 of Cups and we have the 6 of Wands, okay? So what happens is that once you get around forgiving the situation, the person, all that's been involved here, you reach a really happy place, okay? And interestingly, okay, once you get there, something happens, okay? This something is something external, okay? And it could be a new relationship, or it could be a new job opportunity, but life is going to turn around suddenly, right? So it's like once you work on this forgiveness and you come to a happy place entirely on your own, you something beautiful is going to come your way, all right? Either in the form of a new relationship or a new job opportunity, like a blessing, something really beautiful, something really fortunate. This is going to come your way. You have the Six of Wands, which is a card of success and victory, right? So something very beautiful is going to come your way. And then you realize that if this hadn't happened, right, you may not have had this beautiful blessing. So it's like you've had to go through this messy situation, be it betrayal, deceit, or lies, whatever it is that is plaguing you right now. You will get over it. You will get over your anger, you will get over your resentment, you'll work in forgiveness, and then you'll reach a very happy point. And then, a very beautiful blessing will come your way, okay? You have the Six of Wands right after the Nine of Cups here. So, it could be, like I said, it could be a new opportunity, a new relationship, but something very beautiful blessing will come your way. And at that point in time, you realize that if this messy thing didn't happen, you wouldn't have, taken the direction that you have taken and encountered this blessing. Okay? Because life works in very mysterious way. You have the universe and you have reflect here. So, earlier I mentioned about reflecting, right? Reflecting about what happened and letting go and forgiveness. And then you also have the universe here for your guidance, which is that, destiny works in very mysterious ways. Sometimes, in this journey of life, you have to go through certain trials and tribulations, and then you end up in a different point in life, right? Like if this didn't happen, you would have ended up in, say, point A, but because this happened, you kind of ended up in point B. And because you ended up in point B, you ended up in another destination where you encountered this beautiful blessing that is coming your way, okay? So in a way, I think the message here, my pile 3, is that this is meant to happen. All right. None of this is just happening randomly to you. All right. This is happening for a reason, and you will realize what it is as you journey further. All right. And I want to say, the energy clearly starts changing here, and you get to a very happy point, okay? So whatever it is that is troubling you, my pile 3, I can relate to that anger, that anger is so visceral, right? When you realize that you've been betrayed or lied to, and I know, and beneath that anger really is a lot of sadness, okay? So, and it's really damaging to us the longer we cling on to it. Okay, so find some form of release, some form of spiritual work, internal self-reflection, and learn and let it go. All right, learn to walk the path of forgiveness. It may take a while, okay, because I see this happening as like a second step, because first you have to make a radically different change, a direction or decision. Okay, so before you get to the forgiveness, let me reemphasize, I see you making a radically different decision, a radically different step. All right, whatever, because I'm sure this is a general reading, so I'm sure all your situations are different, but whatever this radical change, radical decision, radical direction you take, I see you taking this step first prior to working in forgiveness, okay? So please address whatever you have to address, all right, before you start working on forgiving, okay? Because I feel like the situation at hand is kind of messy and you really have to address it first, address the external circumstance before you can work on forgiving the other person, okay? So my pile 3, that is all I have for you today. I wish you well. I wish you happiness, and I wish you the courage to forgive. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the reading. That's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed the reading, please give it a like and subscribe. And bye-bye until our next reading. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, my pal 4. Welcome to your reading. Okay, so I'm going to start out by saying you guys picked the best pal. You guys picked the best pal, and I'm so glad to be ending this whole reading on your pal. Okay, so there is 2 categories I want to address. We can start. I'm going to start with career, vocation, all right, and then I'm going to move on to relationships, like romantic relationships. So stay tuned for both if you're interested in hearing both. So I'm going to start with career, vocation, all right. So for my pal 4, in the past, you have lost some kind of enthusiasm for your job. It's like you used to be a very idealistic person, and somehow along the way you begin to feel like you're trapped, right? Like this, like whatever role that you used to be serving no longer entices you. It's like you've kind of lost the passion for it, right? And so you felt kind of trapped. And this is in the past, all right? And you feel like, you ought to be, you don't feel abundant necessarily, and at least this was in the past. You felt like you've kind of lost sense of your drive, because I see that you're an idealistic person. So, being driven by some form of passion, some form of idealism is very much you as a person. And so in the past, with respect to your career, I see that you were a little bit stagnant, all right, for a little while in the past. And so now we move on to the present. And so, you're starting to think about what it is that, drives you, right? Like, are you being overly concerned with money and, being too focused on being self-serving, right? So you're at this point of sort of, I would say, reorganizing your priorities, okay? And you're starting to think along the lines of being more others serving, okay? Or you're focused on being the giver versus the taker, right? And you're starting to reevaluate where it is that you can feel fulfilled, right, internally for your vocation, and how you would like to contribute to the greater good, okay? So you're going through this point of reevaluation and thinking about, all right, how do I balance, sustain making a living versus contributing to a meaningful cause, okay? So you're at that point where you're planning, you're looking at your different options and you're saying, all right, I can contribute here. How altruistic am I, right? What are different ways I can contribute? So you're also thinking about how you can feel fulfilled, right? Because when we serve others, there's also an element of self-satisfaction and self-gratification involved. So you're reevaluating that, right? I don't see you. I think there's a part of you that is still very much caught up in the sort of capitalistic mindset where you're like, oh, how I'm gonna how am I going to make a living out of this? How am I going to make it profitable? And I think you're also at a stage where you're sort of, you need that acknowledgement, right? You need the acknowledgement of from others. And I think this is very normal, okay? I think it is completely okay for you to go through this process of evaluation because we all need some form of acknowledgement. Like it's almost like instinctive of us to have that level of acknowledgement before so we know that we're going in the right direction. It's like you're in high school and you need that grading system to know how well you're doing. Except that, when you're in life, it's not so clear cut. So overall, I see the trajectory of you having this reevaluation of your idealism, right? And I mean idealism in a good way, okay? Because you have certain internal values that you recognize within yourself and you acknowledge, and you see how that your skill sets can be better put to use. So you're reevaluating how to go about that. All right. Now, the future is very bright. Okay. You have big cards here. You have the Empress, you have the Star. So you'll get to a point where there is a creative explosion. Okay, you'll get to a point where you have this huge creative explosion inside of you and you know exactly what to do. And in addition to this, you will find your tribe, right? You will find like-minded people. Now, they might be, there to help you co-create something new, or they might be your co-founders, or they just might be there to inspire you, right? Either way, you will find your tribe. And then when that happens, you will birth something new. I see a new chapter, okay? My Pile 4, I see a very new chapter here. And in this, you are, it's almost like you're giving birth to something new, right? And it's because it's so personal. It's like you're a baby, right? Because it's completely of your own effort, your own desires, your own wishes, and it's completely in alignment with the greater good. Okay, I also see my Pile 4 that whatever it is that you are birthing or giving life to, this is a sort of a divinely inspired blessing. Okay, so it's like, sometimes higher powers, they destiny has its own external forces. Okay, so there are external forces at work, sort of contributing to this new chapter of yours. All right, because whatever you're doing, whatever you're sort of giving birth to, has bigger implications. All right, and you may not see it right now, but there is a butterfly effect, right? And whatever you're doing sets the course for what's to come. Okay, so you may not have the whole picture in mind, but the divine higher powers will sort of give you a little clue, okay? A little clue here and there to get you to this stage where you can give birth to this new idea, okay? And you have the very beautiful Star card. This whole reading is about a message of hope, and here you have the one, and you have this hope card here. So whatever it is that you wish to do, it's gonna happen because it's got some higher power support here. All right, so that's what I'm trying to say. So whatever you are seeking, you will receive. Okay, and like I said earlier, what you hope to achieve has some bigger implications. We have the Seeker here as well. I feel that in addition to having bigger implications, because of your journey, all right, because of your journey, you are a source of inspiration for other people. Okay, so whatever you choose to do, whatever idea that you're manifesting, whatever project it is, it will be, and your own journey will be a source of inspiration for others. So it's almost like you have this beautiful blessing coming your way, and not only does it serve a greater good and has its purpose in the course of the greater destiny of society, you are also a source of inspiration for others, right? Who are, further behind on their journey, and it's almost like you show the way, right? You're like a way shower, right? Like you lead the way. So this is very beautiful for my Pal 4. Now, there is another element to this reading. So let's talk about, relationships. Let's talk about life in general, all right? So I covered career earlier. And so for my Pal 4, if you've been trying to get pregnant, all right, if you're, looking to start a family, I see that you will most likely succeed in the future. All right, that whatever that there is a time and place when it comes to a kid, having a kid. Because if you know a little bit about astrology, you know that the birth chart, the birth time, even down to the minute, it's very important. All right. So if you've been trying and you haven't been very successful, know that. Know that there's a right time and place, okay, for everything. And for some of you, my Pal 4, if you're a lady, and you've been hoping to get pregnant, I see that you will have that in the future, all right? You will have a child, and because there is divine timing involved, please have some level of patience and know that we can't really control the timing of things, okay? All right, so I want to cover one last possibility for my Pal 4, and this has got to do with more like romantic relationships, okay? So my Pal 4, I see that you probably had you might be having a hard time in your relationship, at the moment. You might be in a committed relationship, and you feel like there used to be a lot of romance. It probably happened pretty fast, but now you feel like things might be a little stagnant. Well, not stagnant necessarily, but you might have a little argument, and you might find that he's a little overbearing, and there might be some boundary issues where you feel like you're overgiving sometimes, and you feel a little trapped. All right. So for my Pal 4s, who are where this is with regards to more like a romantic situation, I would say things are actually only going to get better from here. All right. And I know it may not seem this way because you're like, oh, he can be really overbearing and he's very controlling at times. And, oh, we used to have such great romance, but, things have gone really practical. I feel a little trapped. Now, the message here I'm getting for you is that a relationship takes effort, and you have been through a chapter in your relationship you're meant to go through this, okay? You're meant to go through this chapter, and it's tough, but it's meant to show you each of you, yours and your partner's blind spots, okay? And when you start recognizing each other's blind spots, because our partners are like our mirrors, right? Where we kind of see ourselves through them. So I see that your partner might have some anger issues, a little controlling, and you might be a little emotional yourself. But I see that things are actually very positive, and that you need to realize that this chapter you're in. It was meant to happen. You were meant to go through the romantic phase to the realistic phase, and then the future is very hopeful. Okay, you have the beautiful Empress, you have the beautiful Star card here. It's like things will work out, right? And there's a lot of love, a lot of positivity in the relationship. Okay. Um, and finally, for my pile four, I have a little word for my singles out there. If you feel like you've been dashed by past romance, like, you might have a couple of romantic encounters that are very short lived, right? They don't go, they don't last very long. Well, know that that's going to change. You might be in a situation now where, you're kind of meeting the wrong people. You might be meeting men who are, kind of domineering. They might be a little older, right? And, you kind of macho. You might be meeting men like that. And then you're also kind of reevaluating if that's really your type. Okay, so for my singles, all right, in my pile four, the future is very hopeful once again. You have the Empress and the Star. Let me repeat that. So I feel like in the future you will meet your partner, all right? You will meet the partner whom you're meant to be with, and it will be divinely guided, and you will find what you seek. Not only is it a very beautiful relationship, it's one filled with a lot of love, and it would also be one that is sort of divinely planned, okay? So I covered quite a few possibilities for my pile 4, but I'm going to reiterate the overall energy for my pile 4, which is you guys lucked out. You guys got the best pile. This is a very, very hopeful pile. Be it your career, your relationship, and life in general, things are only going to get better. All right? So, if you're having problems, in your life right now, if you might be lost in some kind of, you might not have the perspective, but you're actually in a really fortunate position, my pile 4. I mean, things are going to get a whole lot better, but things are actually pretty okay right now, all right? So I also see the message, my pile 4, about being really focused on gratitude, on contentment, and just feeling satisfied with life in general. I feel like the more you focus on your gratitude and your contentment in life, things are just going to get even better, all right? So my pile 4, life is great, all right? Life is good for you. Please focus more on gratitude and contentment, and only good things are going to come your way, all right? This is really a joyous pile to end this reading with. I can just feel the joy emanating from this pile. So you're on the right track, all right? Wherever you are in life, you're on the right path. It's pretty clear from here. And, you're divinely guided, and beautiful things coming your way, all right? I am so happy for you, my pile 4. I wish you more joy, more bliss, and I wish you more gratitude and contentment, all right? And spread the joy, all right? Pile 4, you're the lucky one, so spread that joy, all right? Make someone's day. Smile and make someone's day. Okay, so if you have enjoyed this reading, my pile 4, please give it a like and subscribe. And all right, till our next reading, goodbye, and thank you for tuning in.